God's timing is perfect and God's planning for us is perfect. You have to choose between life and death. You only know a person when you stay with that person.
What helps us a lot, or myself a lot, is that I'm optimistic. I believe in speaking the word. I believe in being positive, even if you need to crawl sometimes.
Yeah.
Even if you can't walk, then you crawl. If you can't crawl, even if you have to sit still for a moment. But in your heart, in your mind, always believe there is hope. Always believe that tomorrow, today, God can still come through. God has done it before, He can do it again.
When God is in your plans, there's nothing like you can do. It's like it will catapult you to your destiny.
Welcome to The Calling, a podcast that explores the journey into your calling, the challenges, the victories, and the powerful testimonies of faith that shape those who answer God's call. In this space, we sit down with people who are living out their calling. Today's guests are Pastors Fernando and Michelle Kayser, a married couple, pastors, and church planters who have stepped out in faith to serve and build a church within their local community. Together, they share what it's been like to walk this road side by side, the moments of uncertainty, the breakthroughs, and the lessons learned along the way. This conversation is an honest look at what it means to say yes to ministry, not just individually, but as a couple, and how faith, obedience, and perseverance continue to shape their journey. Welcome to The Calling. Welcome, Pastors Fernando and Michelle. It's so wonderful to have you here today. And I want to start by asking you a bit about where you grew up.
Okay, you can start.
I grew up in Klein Square, Port Elizabeth, in informal settlement. Yeah.
And you, Pastor Fernando?
Up in Bloemendal, a place that was once a place of gangsterism, but also peace. Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up there with a single mother.
Yeah.
I grew up without a father. And my mother was the one that played the role in my life as father and mother.
Wow.
And today, me and my wife, we have 2 children, and we can't see how my mother coped over the years. How to fall without the husband.
And you, Pastor Michelle, tell us a bit about your childhood.
Yeah, my childhood, I stayed, like I said, in Glen School. So my school was quite a distance from home. So I had to walk every day to school. And in that time, I remember the one day I was walking and I stood on the field and I said, you know what, if only there can be a school here. And lo and behold, about 5 years ago, there's a school exactly at the school where I stood years ago. So I'm part, my mother had 5 children, and my sister passed on many years ago. And yes, so I'm the eldest of 4 children. And yeah.
Okay, so was there a point in your childhood where you felt called into ministry? That you knew this was something you wanted to do? When did that happen?
Yeah, for me, I always wanted to be a teacher and a pastor. So my mother had this antique wardrobe at home, and so the one day I just opened the doors and I found myself a permanent kokkie-maker.
Okay.
And on the one side, I wrote the scriptures, and on the other side, I was doing sums and words and phonics and, going crazy. And I never knew, because I was 6, 7 years old, how the two will one day combine. And His bodies graced me to become a teacher and also to become a pastor with that.
And you, Pastor Fernando?
With myself, there was never even a hint of me being a pastor. I think what drew me closer to a pastor is that I'm very soft. Um, I love people
Yeah.
and I love to do community work. I think that's the point where I can say that there was a little bit of pastoral ministry within me. But growing up as a child, I never thought that I will one day fill that role of pastor.
So then how did you get into it? When did it begin? Did you attend a Bible school or
When it
what
actually
happened?
started for me, um, and this is part of my testimony, where I used to drink a lot in my youth days.
Yeah.
So in my early 20s, I have an encounter. Actually, I was involved in an accident. A car that my mother bought for me on for my 21st birthday party, where I also have a party where I met my wife for the first time at my 21st.
Oh wow, okay.
Oh, there we saw one another and there was no spark, there was nothing because I never saw see myself as a church person or person that is part of a church. And I knew that her life is church. She has given her life to the Lord at the age of 5 years old.
Wow.
So I never saw myself there. But God's timing is perfect and God's planning for us is perfect. So here I was in this Shabin cabin type of place where I have an encounter with the Lord. And the Lord said to me that it will stop here. You have to choose between life and death.
Sure.
So I was having this vision where I see myself in front of a big crowd. The first vision I saw was where I stand in this yard where I'm busy drinking, asking people for money for my next job. And I'm like, no,
Wow.
this is not me.
Mm.
I don't see myself having this life. And then putting myself together, think, no, what is this happening now to me? And the Lord showed me another vision where I see myself standing in front of people ministering His word.
Wow.
But here I'm not having a relationship with Christ. How can I minister His word? Before I know it, I went home that Saturday. Went home, tell my mother that tomorrow I'm going to church. My mother asked me, whose church? What church you go? I said, I'm going to attend the church my sister is going to.
Yeah.
So my sister at the time attended Word of Faith Christian Center. And I said to her, tomorrow I'm going to church with you. But that was also the time when Pastor Frederick Bluchnoot, my spiritual father, started the branch in the northern areas. So we attend there. That Sunday morning, I saw my wife again after 3 years. Yeah, saw my wife again, and wow, this is what it is. But I don't see myself. So Pastor Fred made the altar call, and I went out while the altar call was in front. People flocked to the altar. I went out at the back,
Okay.
and he saw me, knowing that there was a calling on my life. He even mentioned this words. He said to me, God have a plan for your life. If you step out of this place where we're standing now, disaster will follow you. And while I was standing there, I was like, next week is there's another party. How can I step into doing the will of God now, but next week I can still have booze? And then I decided, let me go with him. Went with him. Monday night start, and there it start for me because the first Monday night I attend. That time we were called, which is now Connect Group.
Yeah.
It was G12.
Yes.
This-
Yeah.
So I attend my first G12. And here, me and Pastor Fred came into the house where we normally have G12. He said to my wife, I brought you a husband. Just like that, out of the blue. So that's where it started for me. The ministry actually, serving God from that day.
Wow, that is such a powerful story. How long have you been married?
20 years.
20 years. Pastor Michelle, do you tell this? Let's tell the story from your side. How do you feel you met your husband?
I met Fernando at his 21st celebration. I remember that someone, a long time ago in the colored community, we had this thing where they march and you make the 21 and, everything happening there. So they needed someone to fill a gap. And the one girl couldn't now be part of this march and it was now not complete. So they asked me to go. So I was very strict. I knew what I wanted. I wrote down when I was 15 years old already what kind of husband I want.
Wow.
And everything, there was this list there. And so I got now to this 21st celebration. So I came to this where they now rehearse for the party that's on Saturday. So as I walked in, I saw all the people. Some went to the car outside and they were drinking.
Yeah.
And it took longer than I wanted to be there because I needed to pray at 8 o'clock. I needed to be at home, go and pray. And I looked at everyone and I said to myself, man, this man looks okay. The boy that's now turning 21. In my eyes, he was now a boy that time. And I was saying to myself, you would make a nice husband for someone one day, God, but I pray that it's not for me. I said, you will be okay for someone else there. And I think 5 years later, we met up again at church. And the previous year, I said to myself, what? I'm going to Bible college. This is what I want to do. I want to grow up in ministry. Just want to do ministry. I only know ministry from a young age. And I wanted to just focus on God. That was my goal for that year. And then Pastor Fred said, he came to my home that evening. He said, and when I looked, I'm like, God, really? I said to you for someone else, not for me. And then I look at Fernando that evening. And I just felt the peace of God for the first time, After many years, I felt the peace of God. And I felt, this is what God wants for me.
Yeah. And God knows best. And you've been married 20 years. Now, for those listening or watching at the moment, 20 years of marriage, can you give a few tips, words of wisdom to those who may be newly married or just a few years in?
I always say this, that you only know a person when you stay with that person. And myself and my wife, we dated for a year and got engaged within 6 months' time. Planned our wedding for the next 6 months. And 20 years later, here we are. There was, over the years, there was a lot of hiccups and miscommunication and, all things that comes with marriage. But then we realized that it's important to put God first. And it's important to know the decision that we took, why we said yes to one another. And that was out of love. We love one another. And I believe there's nothing that can come between us that can just stifle us, like a word here or a thing there, a miscommunication here. The love that we have for one another and the love that we have for God, that's where we have decided. We draw the line here. We will stick forever.
And you, Pastor Michelle?
I think for me, I'm a very practical person. So one day I was thinking about if someone one day asked me about marriage, what would my tip be, my hint, what my tip would be. I'm bubbling here over the same thing, but let me start again. So I was thinking about the question, and something that comes to mind is, because I'm a practical person, is sometimes when there's a mark, a stain, you have to put handy on. But some stains doesn't go away just with handy. Sometimes you need to put bleach also on. And then there's that other stains where you have to walk away and leave the handy and on a bit so it can just
Soak in.
soak
Yeah.
into that stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, that practical tip I found one day when I was cleaning the house and God spoke to me. You know, when I wanted to give up, basically, God spoke to me about that. And you don't take a dirty cloth to clean.
Mm-mm.
You take a clean cloth to clean the dirt. And you don't fight fire with fire. And sometimes when the one is up there, you can't go up also. You must come down. So someone need to pray in tongues. Not everyone can shout and scream at the same time. So that is the practical tips over the years I took. And that is the things that, keep me grounded. So when the moments come, when the times come, when it gets tough and the challenges come, that is one of the things I would always go back to and reflect on, cleaning material. So clean up again and start again. In 20 years, we've started many times, over and over. Yeah, every time we go back, let's do it again.
Yes.
Let's start again. It's never too late. There's
When the
always milk.
goes, let's begin again.
Let's begin again.
Yeah, I love that advice. Now, you as a married couple, then now you're entering into ministry. Tell us about that journey. How do you go from getting married to now ending up actually planting a church?
I think it was when we both run successful Negros
Yeah.
at the time. Where we were 10 years married that time.
Okay.
And that time we were moving from this house to that house. We couldn't get our feet. And then Pastor Fred approached us one day while we were staying in Boyson Park. And he said to us, guys, I've had this in my head long time because of you guys are running a stable connect group. That time I was around about 15 guys and you also. So we were not the perfect couple to be the pastors, but we were doing the things that pastors would do. And so there we stayed in Boyson Park and he approached us, asked us that I have another church in mind. Would you guys be available to run it, to oversee it at first? There was no talks of pastoring, just to oversee and to look after the people in our Boyson Park area. And there we were saying, no, it's not us. He said, no, team. We have to pray about it. We have to think about it. Because we could see the strain sometimes on leaders, pastors. What people, when it comes with pastoral a story, it comes with a weight. And not all of us can carry that weight. That's why my wife mentioned earlier, when one is up there, when one is down, the other one needs to be up.
Yeah.
And there will be times where we both are up. So that is the case with pastoral things. And here we wondering how this is going to come together. And one day Pastor Fred came from America saying to us, guys, it's clear that I saw your faces in a cloud. And over your faces was in written poison lock. So, Lord, really? Now we can't get a way out of this one because God is now involved in this. That was once just a thought, is becoming now a reality. And we said yes. Both of us said yes to the call, not knowing what are we putting ourselves up to. And stepping into ministry for the first year in 2015, it was quite excitement because that time we were still looking for a place to meet and we couldn't find a place. And then one night we were driving through the streets of Boyson Park, just praying over the street to that the Lord must saturate this area. With oil we were praying and she have a bottle on this side and the oil just drip, drip, drip as we go along Boyson Park area. And my wife said to me, when we were standing in front of a school, the Lord said we must approach the principal of the school. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
Okay, but there's no one now at school. And then she said to me, I was thinking of all the excuses not to have church there where she actually said to me that we must go. And then we went to the lady that was a caretaker at that time, spoke to her, and she said to us, come and see the principal tomorrow. I don't think you will have a problem. So we done that, going there, speak to the principal, and the principal said, yes, it's like my word. I thought we can still have a few months for this thing will really materialize. But dog, when God is in your plans, there's nothing like you can do. It's like He will catapult you to your destiny.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's from me. I don't know if my wife will add on that.
Yes, we started. And I remember when we walked into the place, the lady said, well, I have time now. I can go show you how the place look. It's abandoned building. So we can just go and take a look. I remember walking into that classroom that time. Man, there was one towel on the floor and nothing else. It was just the walls, basically. And I said, God, you said we must come here, so you will provide. So now we're trusting you.
Yeah.
I remember just the week before that, before we opened the church,
Yeah.
Fernando lost his work.
Sure.
We had to move back into my mother-in-law's house, the 2-bedroom house, and all of things were packed up. I remember we also went to the romantic marriage weekend. That same weekend, we started the church. We started with Sunday afternoon 5 o'clock services.
Yeah.
So we came back from the romantic weekend.
Yeah.
All our stuff is now packed up in the house at the back of the yard, and we started to give some of the things away. We had our 2 children already that time, and I was busy studying. So I studied and I worked, and here the ministry started. And in my heart, I'm thinking, God, we don't have a place, and now we're going into a classroom basically. There's nothing. There's one tile on the floor, and there's nowhere.
Ceiling, nah.
And I remember we stood in the door, and I leaned over to him, and I said to him, why don't we just trust God? God has brought us thus far.
Yeah.
So we continue to trust God.
Yeah.
I remember we went home, we contacted Pastor Fred, and man, after that, God just came through for us. For chairs, for the stage, people just came along and just assisted. And we had a deadline, and the week before we started the church, it looks like we're not going to make it. And then we started to pray again. And God has blessed us with amazing people that was in our connect that time. John, now Pastor John and Cheryl Stone, and
Yeah.
Aaron and Gallant, Rabina and Randall. They came along and they assisted us. They helped us, to clean up the place and all of that.
Wow. So
I remember UPS came in. They were busy doing an orphanage at that time. And they said they have paint for us. The only problem with this paint is it's all the colors of the rainbow because they were doing it for the children. Then I jumped up and down. I was so excited to see all the bright orange and the yellow and the red and the green, And we painted every wall a different color. And Pastor Fernando wasn't so happy with that colors. He came and said, no, 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 no. We need to trust God, to do something here. We want one color. And God came through for us.
But even before that, God's ultimate plan for us was to have a church. But we have to start somewhere. So we started off with Sunday school. And that's where the paint came in. Yeah, the color came to make it like a how can I say, crash type, but it give it that paper room feel. So there we were, painting the place, starting Sunday school. And our Sunday school grew to 120 children.
120 children. I was going to ask you, now you've got the building, but where do you find the people?
That's where it started. where we were having Sunday school. My wife was
Did you advertise it or how?
advertising, and we were having a clown suit where we were giving lollies and things out to the children, telling them in the community that this Sunday you must come 9 o'clock. We're gonna have a jumping castle, but that time we didn't have a jumping castle. Yeah, so we were having a guy with a clown suit on, and he was the one at the gate getting the children in, and before we know it, that place was packed. So, our son and our daughter, they were helping getting the children at ease, and my wife planned a lesson for that day for the children. So those children went home excited, knowing we were talking about family that day. And we know that the the crux of our community is broken families. And that's where we realized that if we can start with these children, speaking about family, because they have a picture in their minds of a father, a mother, myself, my sister, my siblings, um, that's a family. And we paint the picture for them. They went home. Before we know it, those children came back. We were having Sunday school for 4 weeks after every week. And then those children came home and said, Auntie, well, I also want my family, my mother and my father, to come here. So then we have an open day
Okay.
where parents can come and see what we actually do and
Wow.
what we actually teach their children
Yeah.
on a Sunday. And after that, we're visiting with our connect groups, visiting those families. And before we know it, we were having a service plan for the Sunday night where church start now.
Yeah.
In that time, there was a businessman that was part of Word of Faith that time. He asked me, Pastor, you're not a Dane, but people call you already Pastor because you function in that office.
Yes, because you're already functioning. Yeah.
So he said, Pastor, the Lord laid on my heart, I must help you with the stage for your church. So I said to him, yes, it's fine. Come and have a look and let us do our measurements and things. When he got into the building, I remember it was myself, Pastor Fred, and John Stone that was standing there, and this guy. And he said to us, I came here with a stage in mind, but the Lord said to me that we must break through that class as well. What you must write down now what you need for
Yeah.
this building to take shape. And there we were like children in a candy shop, not knowing exactly what we want. And then we start to write down. And before we know it, we have a list of things that the Lord can provide for us. So we give him the list, and he said to us, I must just make one phone call before I can give you a final answer. He found his father. Father said to him, listen here, you know that the business is going through a dip. We're not actually at a place where we can be this help to this church, but whatever the Lord laid on your heart, you do it. And then he said to us, that answered him. He said to me, Pastor, the Lord just answered me. Our business is going through a dip. And this seed, we're going to sow into your ministry, knowing that God will look after us.
Wow.
So he sowed a seed of he sowed a seed of 23,000 rand
Okay.
to us. We could buy chairs, we could paint the walls one color, we could fix our baby room area and a type of an office for myself and my wife. We could fix the kitchen area out of that money and put a nice paint on the floor as well. So that 23,000 stretched so much that we could even see that this is the Lord at work in that area. And before we know it, the place was filled with 40 people, 50 people, 60 people. Up until today, we're having double services. So that's how the Lord is faithful to over the years.
And have you seen the change in the local community?
Yes.
Do you have a testimony you can
I
share?
have a testimony of one guy. And he is so proud of me using this testimony wherever I go because he was really down and out. A man that was in drugs. He was he had the family that time, but he was absent. That time it was his girlfriend and 3 children. So when we got to them, is actually his girlfriend that time visited the church, and we got hold of her where we want to go and visit, to a house visit. And when we got to the house, it was a shack. Went into the shack, there were no place for us to sit. My wife, they offered her a paint tin
To sit.
to sit on, and I was standing around that time, and I saw this end result, what the Lord can do in the situation. So I was calling the guy. His name is Bertram. So I was calling him, Bertram, come here. Have you ever think of giving God a chance in your life? And I could see that this guy is thin. The drugs have abused him over the years. He used to have a good job, but then he lost his job due to tech, and he couldn't provide for the family. And so what happened was he started to steal from himself. Everything that's in the house, he stole it, sell it, and the house got emptier and emptier as time goes on. So one day, I think the gangsters got hold of him and they wanted to kill him. He realized that there's people praying for me, because even that night they kept him for 2 days in a shed where they torturing him. He must tell them now where did he sell their drugs, because he was stealing from them and he was doing something on the side. So I used to have a gold bucky. When I come onto the place name is Vastrap, where my bucky where they lived. And when my bucky entered that place, they know Pastor Fernando is coming, either with clothes or with food or with something that they can use in their homes. So that was our community. That was our congregation actually stayed on in that place, because many of those people joined the church, and myself and my wife, we start to love on those people because we could see how the devil used and abused everything that they work hard for. So got got hold of him, and then the Lord said to me, "This is what I want you to do. Focus on one man, and you will see how I will change a family, and you will see how I will change a community."
Okay.
So that's our philosophy, where if the father can get saved, like I said, it's easy to get the wife. If the father can get saved and he's stable, his whole family will become stable. Before we know it, the community will look up to him, and that they will say, "We want to what you have." So here we with this guy, I remember the first time, it was a week when he was without drugs, and he started to itch.
Sure.
And he said to me, "Yeah, Pastor, I don't know how to get rid of this thing, but ever since I have left the drugs, this thing started to happen where I itch." So I said to him, "Bro, it's not easy, but you have to push through." So now is there's a thing when he go home or he's not with me, then he use drugs.
Okay.
So I have to now think, how can I get this guy in? I'm a person, I'm a family man. I can't be with him the whole day. I have my own life. So the Lord helped me with ideas. So I went to him this one day, and that time it was hampers. Also in December, it was hampers and things, where my cousin asked me if I can just help her to deliver this hampers. And I thought, Bertram, let me get hold of him. He must be busy. Yeah, he have energy. When I say energy, Theo, mornings while we were still sleeping, our yard have grass in front and the lawn. So yeah, the this guy comes in the mornings. We just hear what's happening here outside. We thought there's a cow that's in our yard, busy taking out the weeds. That's the morning at 6.
No.
He said to me, Pastor, I need to get rid of this energy. This that is in my system. So everything that you do it fast, you do it quick, and with all vigor and energy. And so I said to you, Pastor Fred stayed that time in Youth Lake. He had this big yacht, and I took him in my bakkie. Let's go and visit my pastor. So we were talking to him, and he was quite inquisitive on how it feel or how it is to have Christ within.
Yeah.
So we were telling him all the things about the Holy Spirit and
Yeah.
to live a clean life and how to live a life of God. And then that hooked him. He wants more and more. So now I think it was 2 months that he was clean, that he was now not using, he was still smoking. And I said these words one day to him. He asked me, Pastor, will I go to heaven if I'm smoking, if I still smoke? I said to him, Bertram, that is a question that only you can answer. And I said to him that it's not that you're not going to heaven, but when you enter heaven, you will smell like hell. He's like, "What?" And I don't want to smell like it. So I need to stop with the smoking. And one day I picked him up and he jumped in the back of the bus. I was asking me, what you doing now? He said, Pastor, I'm smelling of hell. A pud gets into the front of the bucket. So, long story short, this guy got married. Um, they murdered actually his son, and that was a turning point in his life
Sure.
where he had to witness how his son burnt out in front of him. It was a mob justice. That time, mob justice was quite big in our community where Boyson Park is. So here, this guy, there's things that is happening rapidly for him. He went to Encounter Weekend, came back from Encounter Weekend, and not smoking anymore. Once a service, we prayed for him. When we laid our hands on him, he prayed in tongues.
Wow.
He was touched by the Holy Spirit. He got baptized. He got baptized. Today, that guy is a family man. He worked for his family. They own their own house. They own
Wow. They're out of the shack.
into their own house. His daughter is matriculated next year. Is doing matric next year, and there was nothing that us could do out of our own self.
Nah.
It was all the Lord's work. So his wife, yes, this is another part of his testimony. His wife got sick so much so that we thought that we were going to lose her in that same day. So they called us as the pastors. I gave her communion that day. I've prayed for her and I said, Nadine, the Lord will heal you. But deep down inside of me, I knew that I want this to happen actually, that she must be healed. But I also know that she will die of how she look at that very and how the body is responding. Prayed for her, served her communion, anoint her, and left. The afternoon he came to her and he made promises that promises she holds on to
Wow.
up until today. That couple were here. That couple, the Lord used them so mightily. They part of our ushering team. His wife is part of our Project Hope team. We've seen the hand, how God used,
And restored them.
where God restored
Yeah.
people from where the community has written them off, where they now leaders in the community, and people look up to you.
That's incredibly powerful. What a testimony. Now, you've had this ministry for 10 years now that you've had this church running. What is the vision for the next 5+ years?
Our next vision for the next 5+ years, at this very moment, we're busy with fundraising. As every Saturday, we're going out doing board rolls, we have functions, all of these things in aid of our building fund. So for the next 5 years, we have, and this year, before we started our double services, we were just over 100 people. And then the Lord blessed us where we could open up our second service, and our second service add more people because there's space to fill more people into the corridors, into the chairs. Here we now at a place where we're over 200 people.
On a Sunday, yeah.
That is part of our church.
Wow.
And the Lord said to put this number of 500 on our hearts, 300 on our hearts. And in the beginning of the year, Pastor Richard mentioned it, New Year's Eve service, that this year, 2025, going to be a year of overflow and abundance. But there was a but. But it's going to be messy.
Yes.
And this year was a messy year for us, where ministry was not all smooth or sailing with. It was a mess. People comes up against us and accused us of things and say all nasty things to our children, and we couldn't understand where this coming from. How is this? And one night when we were praying, the Lord reminded my wife, she said, "Hey, Fernando, can you remember Pastor Richard said that he's going to be messy,
Yes.
and this is where he's coming." We approached our spiritual father, Pastor Frederick, and we said to him, "Pastor, we're ready for the double services." Soon as we said that, we could see how the Lord add quality people to our lives. Our doors open up where people comes in. This year, actually, we have started our youth.
Yes,
Yeah.
your use as well.
Started our youth, and we believe with the help of the Lord, within the next 5 years, we will reach, because now see close to, we actually around about 20 people, 10 people away from the 300. And
That's
we're
incredible.
worrying how we will get to this 300 because we under 100 and now we much closer to the 300. So the Lord said, we prayed about it and we trust the Lord for our own building. And having our own building, it's in my mind where I see 500 to 1,000. There will be a first phase and then there will be a second phase. So we trust the Lord for a building that we will build out of the ground. And at this very moment, we don't know where the funds will come from, but we just know that our Lord is faithful.
Yes. Yeah. You were mentioning earlier on about you starting a church, but you've just moved into your mother-in-law's home. That couldn't have been easy.
No.
It couldn't, but you got through it. How did you get into your own home?
We started many years ago. I had this desire to study teaching. So I started out as a practitioner. And that time when we moved into my mother-in-law's home, I was a practitioner.
Okay.
And then I went one day to my workplace and I said, I would like to study. And here my boss is saying, but there is bursaries available. And he said, no, you can go now. Go and find out if you can get a bursary. I got to the place and they said, there is a bursary available. You can go and you can apply now. I applied and I went to Bible college first for 3 years. Then I studied to be a grade R practitioner a year. And then I studied at Sands another 3 years. And then I went to Rhodes for 4 years.
Wow. So I've been studying a lot inside.
Studying for a while. But
15 years in total.
yeah, 11, I think. But the time when we stayed at my mother-in-law's home, I looked the other day and I saw, because here I have this little desk and here my one child is sleeping, the other one there. Here's our stuff around the bed, not hardly any place to move. And my best results was when I was studying there
Wow.
in that school space. And we trusted God for all the years. We trusted God and we say that God will come through for us. What helps us a lot, or myself a lot, is that I'm optimistic. I believe in speaking the word. I believe in being positive. I love everything bright and beautiful. And I have energy, to go the extra mile. So I was in the room the one day, and in our home, we have this little thing we started as a family, and that is our gratitude jar. So instead of complaining what we don't have, we think of something that we are grateful for. So I have all this color paper stacked up, and you must write, even if you must look very hard for something that day, you must write down, what are you grateful for? So you take it, you fold it up, and you put it in the jar. So every time when we look at a gratitude jar, we are reminded, I'm grateful for something. I'm grateful to be alive. There were days when there was nothing. And then I would say to the children, but we're breathing. God is still with us. God is still in our boat. And we started to rent a place again. And then I studied, continuing to study, and we had this goal in mind. And now, just now, the December period, last year, we went for our holiday in Cape Town. It was one of our goals, take our children to Cape Town. And so this year we decided we're going to do renovations in our home because our daughter's in the German exchange program, hosting someone in February. And I was sitting yesterday and I was thinking, what am I grateful for? And then God reminded me, remember, there was a time when you didn't have a home and we wanted to stay anywhere. We wanted to go, we said anywhere. We can just stay anywhere, at least if it's just our own home.
Yeah.
And we moved 3 times out of Boysons Park. And then God would just put us back in Boysons Park. So we stay in the community in Boysons Park. We love being in Boysons Park. We prayed where we have our own mall now. We went and prayed on the ground. And I said to the people this one day, do you see the parking lot? Do you see the gates? Do you see the mall? Can you walk? Can you see this? And they were looking at me because all around there was only bush that surrounds us here. What are you saying, Pastor? And I said, no, I see the mall. You see there up, you will come in there and you will go to the shop that's on that side. And so the other day, I walked into the mall and I just lifted up my arms again. And I said, God, I'm so grateful. I remember there was a time when they said the mall will open. And there was a new letter on the gate that said, there's problems, the mall will now open 3 months. And then someone in the taxi, they were saying, you know what? This mall will never open because there's too much gangsterism, there's too much crime. The people of the community will break it off. Man, I was sitting in front of the taxi. I remember turning around, my whole body look to the back like this is now, I'm standing at the pulpit now. And I start to say to them, we must speak positive over Boysons Park. If we, the people of Boysons Park, speak negative, then the negativity is going to happen here. But do you see the mall? Do you see what I'm seeing? And I started to speak. And the Brian was looking at me very at that. And so the one day I walked up, because I believe in being practical, I walked up to the mall and I called the construction guy and I said, what is the holdup? Is there anything I can pray for? And he looked at me and he asked me, are you in construction? I said, no, I'm not in construction, but I'm in the heavenly construction.
Yes.
And I want to pray for you. Is there something, And he said, you know what? We have a problem with the paving. The paving is a problem. We're thinking, isn't there something else? I said, no. We prayed for the paving already. The paving must work. We need a paving here. And he looked at me and he said, what do you mean you prayed for the paving? I said, before this place came up here, we prayed. I saw the paving. I saw the gates, so there will be paving. I prayed, and a few weeks later, I went back again. The guy saw me, called me, said, yo, you prayed that day for the paving, man. God gave me wisdom. You say God will give me wisdom. You say God gave me the wisdom, and we finished the place. So every time when we walk past or drive past the mall, we know that God has done it for us. We have a reverence today. We can say, look what the Lord has done. So our building is not far. We know our building is close, and we know that God will provide whatever we need, whatever we ask of Him. And in our building, we want to have a state-of-the-art building in Boysens Park. We want to have a building. When you come into Boysens Park, you must see that building, and you must see that they serve a God that is faithful. And in our building, we want to have a creche. We want to have a development center where we develop the youth. We want to have training. We want to feed. We want to feed people. We want to walk into the streets, and we want to tell people, if you lost hope, there's a place that you can go to. So where we started at Vastra, there were no roads. So every time when we have to come to the main church or to the branch, we have to go and pick up people. So every time when it rains, and then they come out with plastic bags around their shoes because they're scared they're going to make our car dirty. And I said to them, you know what? Let me get out here. And it's raining outside. I said to them, let me get out. I feel I need to prophesy now. I remember getting out of the car in the rain, and I said, God, I see the tar roads. God, I thank you that our ladies, if they want to wear high heels, they will wear the high heels. I said to them, can you see what will happen? Can you see yourself walking here in the street? Can you see your children playing here in the street on the tar road? And they look at me. They said, Pastor, they said it's going to take a few years. I said, can you see what I'm seeing? And the other day, she phoned me, tears. She said, Pastor, you know what? They're busy now with the tar road. She said, Pastor, I wove my children. Look here, look here. Our children is busy playing outside on the tar road. You ask us, what do we see? And we saw that. She said, you know, we have street names. They move us on our plots. We're building our houses next year. We have our electricity in. I said to them, start to make a little bed of flowers outside. Start to plant your seed. Come and start to beautify your home. Because you must take, you know, it's your home, it's your pride and your joy. I even went into the wine shack one day, and I say, let's revamp this place. It's like, how do you revamp a shack? Let's revamp. Come, let's put on new curtains, put in something nice. You can put a little flower pot. And today we can see when we walk into the homes, I can just sit and relax and look around, and I can see how they beautify the places. And almost everyone, there's just a few people that stayed behind on Vasta. But the rest of the people moved to other places, but not far, so they can't come to church. But the remaining people who's there now, I know there's only 3-4 families. They're waiting for their homes now. So God, trust in God. As we're building for the church, they will build their houses together.
So you've seen a huge change in the community. You've seen miracle after miracle, God coming through for you. I want to ask you, what do you hope to leave? What legacy do you hope to leave to other people? To, the new generation, what do you hope they will see in your lives?
What I hope for them to see in our lives is that families or sonship where the father is the one that say, I will take my family to the house of the book. It's what because when we leave in the morning, on a Sunday morning, we never go, I go to church, then my wife comes, we leave as a family with our children, then we go. And that's what we see, but that a lot of the people that stay because we're staying in a cul-de-sac where there's a lot of families. It's not so nice, maybe, but they want to have what they had.
Yeah.
I want to have what that family have. And one day, my wife always make this example of the INJ Edward, the days when she grows up, uh, because she also grew up without her father, uh, where there was a father, a mother, and the children, and they sitting around the stable enjoying their fish. And that was always her dream or a thing that she wanted to have. Today, we're living it.
Wow.
We want to give that to other families out there that they must follow also there. Yep.
And also for us, what we want life to leave behind one day, our legacy is never give up. Never give up. Never give up. Even if you need to crawl sometimes.
Yeah.
Even if you can't walk, then you crawl. If you can't crawl, even if you have to sit still for a moment. But in your heart, in your mind, always believe there is hope. Always believe that tomorrow, today, God can still come through. God has done it before, He can do it again.
And for those listening who are perhaps feeling a calling into ministry, where they're also being told, listen, but you need to maybe plant a church, or they feel this desire, what is your advice to those people wanting to start a church or be active in ministry?
I would say to have a church you attend. It's important to be under a covering, and it's important to have a spiritual father and mother, we say today. I don't believe you can be led alone or just be in isolation and just do things on your own, but to be part of a bigger body. For us, I always say to be part of Word of Faith, man, it's an honor. It's a great blessing to us to know that we are secure, to know that there's a place we can go to where we can get fed. We can get, we come here on Sunday evenings and we love being just sitting in the benches and just receiving. And then on Sunday mornings, we would go out and we would give out to the people. And in the week, we would give out to the people. But the main thing for us is to have a covering.
Pastor Jimmy's words to me was, Fernando, I've already do the hard work. Why reinvent the wheel? Just run in the blessing. And that I believe my wife, but my wife said just now, of having a covering, having a body that you coming under. So it is your, how can I say, your umbrella. So the blessing is already there. For us to do the ministry, it's a breeze because the forerunners have already prepared the way for us.
Yeah. Yeah. My last question to you, if there's somebody listening or watching today, and perhaps they are in the beginning stages where they're not fully serving the Lord, or maybe they're just uncertain, and life is maybe hard, and they may be sitting somewhere and they don't feel that hope. What would you say to that person, having walked this road for so long?
To me, it's always, I like the system that Word of Faith there is that there's a if I can go back to the G12 now having connect, is that you connect with someone. This someone that walk this road with you. Many times I'm 23 years in Word of Faith. My wife is many more years for me before. But what I wanted to say is that the times when you weak, you need someone that's stronger than you. The one that you can take his hand and then he will walk with you. So if you feel that you're down and out in this time, get part of a small group. Get part of as we call it, firehouses. A house that you can go to where you know they pray thee. A house where you can be yourself, where you're not being judged. A person that you can speak what the Lord laid on your heart and you feel that this person can walk this road with me. There will come a time where you have to stand on your own. But while you're now in the beginning stages, walk with someone. I remember the days when I backslid. I was saved for 6 months, and then the enemy lied to me. He crept in. I backslid for, was it 2 days or so? Backslid. And then my spiritual father, Pastor Fred, got hold of me. My spiritual brothers came around me. And before I know it, I was back on my feet. No one knows what happened actually, only because you're covered. You're walking, not alone. They say that a lion attack the isolated, but he will never attack the crowd or the pack. So when you're in a pack, you're safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, what an incredible time. Thank you so much, Pastor Fernando and Pastor Michelle. What a testimony, what a story. What a privilege it was today to speak to Pastors Fernando and Michelle Kayser. They've got a church in Boyson Park, and I know that you were blessed and encouraged by the testimonies, the miracles, how God came through for them, and from nothing to what they've built up today. It's only the grace and the power of God. And so we thank you for listening today, and we look forward to seeing you next time on The Calling.